Kunika and I will be your e-pedagogue for the subject of science. Find out when is the next full moon. At what time will the moon rise on this day? What does the moon look like on this day? Draw it. This is also a very fun activity, students. आप अपनी मदर से हेल्प ले सकते हैं, फादर से ले सकते हैं. You can also look up on the internet कि next full moon कब है और जो आप देख रहे हैं आज वो कौन सा मून है. What are the festivals related to the moon? See students, I just mentioned this before beginning the session and I think a few festivals that I would know, one of the very famous ones according to Hindu mythology would be Karvachot. I'm not sure of other religions, but I am sure you all can add up to that. So Karvachot is a festival of moon where a lot of brides who fast for their husbands open their fast by looking at the moon. And students, I am sure you can ask this with your mothers and fathers. In some households, both of them would be fasting कि उस दिन moon कितना late आता है. At night, look at the sky carefully for 5 minutes. What could you see? This is very different to all of us students. हम लोग जो नीचे रहते हैं would see it different compared to people who live on the north of our country. वहाँ पर there are so many stars visible, but you can still do the activity. Go up, look at the sky for 5 minutes. Did you see anything moving in the sky? What do you think it could be? A star or a shooting star? Or a satellite? Satellites are used for TV, telephones and for weather reports. Find out more about this. So students, a shooting star is very rare, but all of us can see stars. Sometimes we also see some blinking lights, which is our airplanes. Do not mistake them for a moving planet or stars. ऐसे आप अपने बहुत सारे examples लिख सकते हैं बच्चों कि आप सभी ने sky में जाकर क्या-क्या देखा. Whereas when we start discussing about satellite, तो हमारे पास एक natural satellite है, which is called the moon. And एक artificial satellite है जो हम लोग खुद भेजते हैं in the space which revolves around our own planet, जो हमें कुछ ऐसी चीज़ों में help करती है such as TV network, telephones, weather reports and other things could be internet, broadcasting and much more. Find more about the satellites you can gather information about. Look at the table and tell. Given below are the times at which moon rises and sets in Delhi. So this is a data from 2007 which tells us that moon rises around 1916 and sets at 8:15. This is 7:16 and by this time we can see that it sets at 8:50. So this is a data about how the moon sets and rises in Delhi. But you can write your own answers based on your own area. On 28th October, the moon came out at dash minutes past dash o'clock. So we can write here 16 minutes past 7 o'clock. On 29th October, the moon came out at 29th is this. It came out at 17 minutes past 20, which is 8 o'clock. So we can see different answers here, students, and this also varies according to the area you live in. On 29th of October, there was a difference of dash hours and dash minutes in the time of moon rise as compared to 28th October. So students, 29th October ko it was at 8:17 and 28th October ko it was at 7:16. So we can see 1 hour and 1 minute difference. If you saw the moon rising at 7 p.m. today, would you see it at the same time tomorrow? I hope you all know the answer, students. ऐसा नहीं होगा, and why is that? We just looked at the table कि कैसे दो consecutive days 28th and 29th को भी हमें 1 घंटा और 1 मिनट का difference मिला. So students, as the earth is continuously rotating and revolving and so is the moon around the earth, what we see is the difference between the moon rising and setting on different days. On 31st of October, the time of setting of moon is given as 12:03. Have you ever seen the moon at 12 in the afternoon? Why don't we easily see the moon or stars during the day? स्टूडेंट्स, ऐसा बहुत रेयर डेज पे होता है जब कभी कभी हम दिन में 12 बजे 1 बजे भी मून को देख पाते हैं, पर ऐसा रेयर इसलिए है बच्चों क्योंकि मून डज नॉट हैव लाइट्स ऑफ इट्स ओन। तो मून के पास अपनी लाइट नहीं होती है। रात को व्हेन इट्स कंप्लीटली डार्क इट takes the light from its neighboring stars and planets and other things जो उसको reflect करके हमें दिखता है under the black night sky. That is why रात को मून को देखना बहुत easy होता है because it is the only glowing object in our sky and it is therefore that much difficult to see in the morning or afternoon. The poet is also raising such questions in the poem. Let us look at the poem and find out what questions are we left with. Stars are twinkling in the sky. Why do they twinkle? Tell me why. How many can you see? Some seen near and some seen far. Is there a name for every star? How many can you see? They shine so bright in the dark of night. Why do they hide in the morning light? How many can you see? Some shining stars we know so well, but every star has a tale to tell. How many can you see? This is a very fun poem about the stars, students. We can also write our own answers कि हमें क्या लगता है जब हम बाहर गए तो हमें stars कैसे दिखे. Let us discuss by the first thing, which is ट्विंकलिंग। तो बच्चों, हम स्टार्स को कभी कभी ट्विंकल करते हुए देखते हैं। ऐसा सदर्न एरियाज में थोड़ा सा रेयर होता है, बट व्हेन समटाइम्स वी मूव टुवर्ड्स द नॉर्थ वी सी द ट्विंकलिंग एंड द ब्राइटनेस ऑफ द स्टार्स सो मच मोर। Stars twinkle because of the variation of light falling on them. तो जब वो different तरीके से reflect करते हैं light को, that is when they twinkle. इसका एक और reason है the presence of our atmosphere. So students, हमारे अर्थ के चारों तरफ there is a blanket of air which is known as the atmosphere. ये एटमॉस्फेयर हमारे लिए बहुत यूजफुल होता है बच्चों. इट प्रोवाइड्स अस विद प्रोटेक्शन एंड विद अ लेयर ऑफ ब्लैंकेट, जिससे हम बहुत सारी चीज़ों से बच सकते हैं. वन सच एग्जाम्पल कुड बी द डिफिकल्ट रेज ऑफ सन एंड अ लॉट ऑफ थिंग्स फॉलिंग आउट ऑफ द स्पेस. इस एटमॉस्फेयर की प्रेजेंस की वजह से बच्चों जो भी हमें स्टार स्पेस में दिखता है वो इस एटमॉस्फेयर से एंटर करके उसकी रिफ्लेक्शन फिर अर्थ पे आती है वेरेवर वी आर. इसकी वजह से उसकी रिफ्लेक्शन में थोड़े बहुत चेंजेस होते हैं एंड दैट इज व्हाई वी सी द स्टार ट्विंकलिंग. कुछ स्टार्स ऐसे होते हैं बच्चों जो हमें पास दिखते हैं, कुछ ऐसे होते हैं जो बहुत दूर दिखते हैं. But what all you can do is sometimes you can go in the sky for multiple times and see कि आप कितने stars देख सकते हैं. कभी कभी वो बहुत ब्राइट होते हैं इन द डार्क ऑफ नाइट, बट वो सुबह होते ही छुप जाते हैं. ऐसा इसलिए होता है बच्चों बिकॉज स्टार्स डू नॉट हैव दैट मच लाइट टू ओवरकम द लाइट ऑफ सन जो हमें वो दिन में दिख सके. बट जैसे कि हमने मून के केस में डिस्कस किया था, कभी कभी हमें स्टार्स और मून दिन में भी दिखते हैं. ऐसा इसलिए होता है बिकॉज समटाइम्स दे रिफ्लेक्ट दैट मच लाइट दैट वी आर एबल टू सी देम. Some shining stars we know so well. Can you guess students, ऐसा कौन सा स्टार है जिसे हम बहुत अच्छे से जानते हैं? As we discussed in our previous segment, I think we all know the answer to this is sun. Sun is our closest and the most important star. वो हमें light provide करता है, provides us with heat. अगर sun नहीं होगा बच्चों तो our earth would be freezing cold. So this is one such star which all of us know very well. This is a very interesting photograph. Let us look at it. A spaceship went to the moon. This photograph of Earth was clicked from the surface of the moon. So this is our moon, students. And this is how we're looking at the Earth. See how the surface is looking? Can you see the surface of the moon? Yes, this is the surface of the moon. Do you have some questions after looking at this picture? Write down those questions and discuss. One such question that I have from this is, where did this part of the Earth go? Why is it only visible to us in a half or quarter way? ऐसा इसलिए होता है बच्चों because both of these celestial bodies are continuously rotating and revolving, और जैसे हमें मून आधा, कभी पूरा, कभी बीच में, कभी क्वार्टर ऐसे phases में दिखता है, मून से भी अर्थ ऐसे ही phases में दिखती है. I am sure students you can write your own answers and discuss it with your friends. Let us look at Sunita's story when she was very young. When Sunita was 5 years old, she saw pictures of Neil Armstrong standing on the moon. In 1969, Neil Armstrong was the first man to walk on the moon. Like any other child, Sunita was very fascinated. Sunita says that when she was a young girl, she really loved sports and swimming. She was never too interested in studies. After high school, Sunita wanted to become a diver. She could not get into that course. Instead, she became a helicopter pilot. One day, she found out if she studied and trained for it, she could join the space mission. And that is what she did. In 2007, Sunita Williams set a new record for the longest space flight by a woman. Sunita often gives her own example to tell children, if you want something but you get something else, do not give up. Do your best and things will work out. When Sunita was asked by a child what would she like to do in the future, she answered, I want to become a school teacher, so that she could make children understand how science and maths are closely linked to our lives. This is a very fascinating example of Sunita Williams, who continuously changed her choice and her passion and landed up to become the woman for the longest space flight. She overcame her obstacles, and that is how she became this person. She tells us how she wanted to become different people when she was younger. Sometimes she was interested in sports, swimming, kabhi unhe diver banna tha, kabhi kuch to kabhi kuch. But then she realized that if she worked for it, if she really wanted to do and pursue what she wanted, she should work and she could be a part of the space mission after becoming a helicopter pilot. And that is when she set that record. She also tells us this very important message, students, that if we want something by our heart, we should not give up. We should always keep trying. That is what we learn from Sunita's story. What have we learned? Why do children always slide down the slide and not slide up? I am sure, students, you are all going to answer this question for me. If this slide were up in the Sunita's spacecraft, would children slide like this? Why? I'm sure, students, we all know the answer to both these questions, that if it is on Earth, due to the presence of gravity, we are going to slide down. But in space, there is no gravity, so we won't come down, we will just keep floating, just like Sunita's hair. Why do we see stars mostly at night? This is because the reflection of light present on the stars is much more prominent in the dark night sky. Looking at the Earth from space, Sunita said, different countries cannot be seen as separate from here. These lines are on paper, they are made by us. What do you understand by this? Students, we have already discussed this in our previous segments, that how all these lines are created by us. They help us in navigation, but they also create boundaries. As we discussed before, space से ऐसी कोई differentiation नहीं दिखती है, and Earth is nothing but just one whole place. तो ऐसे ही बच्चों, based on the borders and the different places we live in, we should not discriminate. That is what we learned from Sunita's experience. There were so many things that we learned in this chapter, students. I am sure you all must be curious to learn much more about this. Students, these are the things that we do and do not experience in our real life as we began with. Students, it is very important to understand that if we try to start observing, for example, observing at the night sky, sometimes at the daylight, we can be answering a lot more questions. So make sure you are curious, you are writing your answers and learning much more about Earth, globe, universe and our space. Thank you.